This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by The Shared World. Sinister tales of swords and sorcery, available at sharedworld.ca.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how a genre gets made. I'm Gregory Kamichuk, your host of Super Pulp Science, who has been pointed by the producer to turn off the air conditioning so that we can start this recording.
Thank you, Justin. And Justin's gotten up to turn it off. I just realized as we're going, there's something humming, something in the background. Not
Will
that we
we
don't
cut
love the
that or
hum.
we're going to roll?
No, keep going. This
We're
is
gonna
fine.
keep rolling.
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit behind the scenes.
All right. So this actually is a good illustrative point for the role that Justin provides as he sweeps back in hot and heavy after San Diego Comic-Con, ready to solve problems and notice things that need fixing. He immediately noticed before I did that the AC was still on. Dear listener, this episode has been saved by our long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, who is known the world over as Chasing Artwork.
What happened last week? Was last week abysmal?
Last week was an off week, actually. We didn't record last week.
Okay,
No, because
there
we
we go.
had an
Didn't
episode in the
miss
bank, and I was
Yes.
feeling I had other stuff to do.
Got
So
that Chadwick episode.
we do, yes.
Yeah.
So it's
dear
all good.
listener, we've pushed the curtain back on the great and powerful Oz. It is true, while this is a weekly podcast, as far as it drops, we sometimes have a few evergreens in the can, as
Tell
we
people
say,
that.
so that if life gets in our way, it doesn't get in your way.
That sounds like a slogan somebody should have,
Right.
right?
TM. That's mine. You have
Like,
to
Yeah,
pay
it's
me.
a
Anyway.
big pharmaceuticals
Oh,
slogan
yeah. Well,
for
how did
sure.
that go? If life gets in the way.
I don't know. I recorded it. It's
Okay, we're going to look back on that. I'm going to use it as an evil corporation slogan.
Common side effects might include diarrhea,
Right?
bloody stool,
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
headache.
Wait, those are separate?
Have you ever
my
seen
God.
the TV? Like,
Yes.
watch a commercial in the States. Like, there's so many drug commercials, and they all have such horrid
Well,
side effects.
did you just come from a dose of that? Because in San Diego, you have to watch the hotel TV, and that's all there
we
is.
had a B&B. We did not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did
Okay.
not do the hotel.
Because I find whenever I
situation.
stay in hotels, it's like a nice blast of like cable television. You still
it
get a lot of
reminds
that
you
stuff.
why you
Yes.
like streaming so much.
Yes,
Oh
exactly.
my gosh, yes, non-stop, like pharmaceutical demands of your time and wallet, and then there's always a montage of people playing in the park while they list the most horrific side effects of these
Followed
drugs.
by a lawyer. Have you taken whatever in the
Yeah.
past 7 months? You might be entitled to some money.
Yes, there's a
Join
lot-
our class lawsuit.
Class action, yes.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the U.S. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Thank God we live in Canada.
Yes, I have been more and more thankful for Canada. I will say, dear listener, if you have tuned in, you have not felt the deep absence of Justin Curry as we have this past time. Tell us, first of all, how dare you? But secondly, where have you been? What have you been up to? I think it's pertinent to lay that context. We've hinted at it a little here, but
Yeah, so San Diego Comic-Con 2024. I was there. The show itself is, I think, the longest show that I do anywhere. It's a Wednesday till Sunday show.
And that's all days that it's open.
Yeah, so
you get there-
Wednesday's a preview night. It opens at 6. It goes till 9. It's only 3 hours on the Wednesday, but it's still like it's a busy day. And in the past, I've arrived on the Wednesday thinking I'd have enough time to do everything, to get everything set up, and that's always just turns into a big ball of stress because nothing quite goes to plan. So the last year or two, I've been arriving on like the Monday evening, so I have Tuesday all day to set up. I'm coming in from Canada doing an American show, so I have a printer in San Diego that I print with, so I have to go pick up my printing. I was just talking before the podcast about the photography stands. I use photography stands in my setup, and rather than bring them down in my suitcase and have to check a bag, I buy photography stands in San Diego, and I have so many friends that do conventions that need big photography stands that I have actually like a waiting list of people who want to buy photography stands off
Nice.
me. Yeah, so
little side business.
I use them once in San Diego, and then they immediately get sold as soon as I come home. And this is year, I think, 3 of doing that exact same thing, and the list hasn't gotten short enough?
In feudal Japan, apocryphally, one of the things that a samurai sword, when it's created by a master, one of the things that would happen is either a criminal or the body of a criminal would be brought in, and they would slice the torso completely through with
So
the
it
sword
tasted blood.
to prove that it was ready. Now, apocryphally, there's a lot of versions around this story, but I imagine our photography stands that come from San Diego in this way. They've been tested in the most critical condition, and so when you give it to another artist who is like, yeah, I'm trying out shows for the first time, I need a backdrop or whatever, it has been through the fire.
It has. It's
right?
true.
This is
That brings you to it's the most of San Diego. I was most of the time I'm really happy with the booth that I've built, and I've been tweaking it over years, and I'm really happy with kind of the look of my stands. But at San Diego, it's like the Olympics of attention warfare. 90% of booths were constructed using semi-trucks worth of pallets and a small army of construction workers to build, the Todd McFarlane Pavilion and the Marvel small village.
when I've been to San Diego Comic-Con the last few times, one of the ways I think about it on that preview night is people are setting up before. The number of forklift backup chimes that you hear around a booth tells you how prepared they are. So if it's one, it's okay, they have one forklift doing it. But if you hear 3 or 4 of those beep, 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 layering up as they're trying to safely back up and maneuver around, that's how you know that booth is ready to roll.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So are you, as far as the artists go, are there people like you who are setting up, who are kind of self-made artists selling their work, or is it more corporations and selling their stuff?
It's a variety. It's I would say a good majority of San Diego Comic-Con is really big companies using it almost more as a advertising momentum, right? They're not there, they're there to sell stuff for sure, but a lot of it is getting on people's radar.
It's the tip of the spear for a lot of big media launches. So if a new sci-fi show is being launched, they have definitely painted the side of an entire hotel with the name of that show, for example, right?
That's a real thing. They take entire skyscrapers in San Diego
And skin them.
Paramount had an entire hotel, 40 stories of strange new worlds, places.
Really?
Every window has a bit of the graphic. So overall, the building is just one big poster.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. But then Paramount also sponsored the lanyards for the San
Free
Diego.
lanyards.
Yeah, and maybe I've become a lanyard snob now that I've made a couple. But they have every single badge at San Diego Comic-Con has the artwork that Paramount is going to submit. They submitted a blue square with their logo in the middle in white. That was what 250,000 people wore all weekend, was just blue square with a white Paramount Plus logo.
That's it.
That's so boring.
Oh, man, that is boring.
It was so boring.
What
Yeah.
a missed opportunity to be interesting.
I can't
Yet-
imagine what that costs for them to
Yet.
do that.
Here we are talking about it, so they win again.
No, I suspect that they're in flux right now. Paramount's in flux.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys follow the trades, but there's been some ownership issues there.
Okay.
And they're
Lay it on
looking-
me. What's
Well,
happening?
Skydance. There's that whole thing where they was going to merge with Skydance
Yeah.
Productions, and then the owner of Paramount didn't want that. There was one person who controlled 50-something% of the shares, so they could make that call, and then it still went through. But now I don't know what's going on with it now. But they're not focused on the lanyards. I'm sure there was hey, just give them that, and let's get back to this mess that we have over here with this
That's what it
merger.
felt like. It was oh God, we have the deadline for that San Diego
Yes.
whatever. Just give them the logo.
Give them the logo.
Just
That's it.
get it out of
yes,
our way.
that's right. Exactly what that was.
What are you doing?
I'm preparing to toast a marshmallow.
I'll be there. A marshmallow.
So then the other thing that's very prevalent at San Diego Comic-Con that you don't see in a lot of other places is the San Diego exclusive, right?
Oh, sure.
Lots of booths. The con actually asks you beforehand, will you have San Diego exclusives, and what are they, so we can kind of put them in our list of San Diego exclusives. And a lot of booths will have it prominently pointed out, like, this is our San Diego exclusive. It's this, whatever. And every day when the doors open, like, the crowds run. And there's all these, like, pre-recorded
sprinters,
announcements, like, don't run. And you hear all these security guards, don't run. Because people are racing to the Mondo booth to get their exclusive, the Marvel booth to get their first 100 exclusives or whatever. And
because my least favorite thing about fandom is flippers, and they're all in those
that's
sprinters,
huge,
right?
yeah.
So day one of San Diego.
Oh, flippers. Sorry, I thought
Yeah.
you meant real flippers, like on your hands or something.
No.
Like, what are you talking
No,
about? Some
if
kind
you
of
have
cosplay
flippers
thing?
for hands, I think you're a valuable and important member of society. If you race to the front of the line to then sell your San Diego thing on eBay for an astronomical amount, I hate you.
Yeah. Okay.
I heard stories of there was vendors, like an artist vendor who would, like, because they're a vendor, they get into the floor early before anybody else. So they would go to the whatever exclusive before the crowd got in. They would buy it first, and then they'd resell it at their table for like a cost. I think they got booted. They got kicked out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
but
that's
like
horrible.
this was like part of their business plan was in the morning. They all spread out, got the exclusives, and then resold them at a profit.
So did you have like a Comic-Con exclusive? Do you do that kind of
I
thing?
launched some things, like some things were like unveiled there, like
Mm-hmm.
new. But I always feel weird about, like, if, say I did a San Diego exclusive and half of them sold, what am I, like, the other half of that, do I bring it to all the other shows as, like, this was my San Diego exclusive? Then it kind of,
It's not exclusive anymore.
yeah,
That's
that
right.
tarnishes it,
Yeah.
right? So I've definitely launched stuff there. Like, this is the first time this has been out. I
Yeah.
had a bunch of foils.
Because that, by that definition, having how you and I both work, we would have a Winnipeg exclusive, an Edmonton exclusive, a Toronto exclusive, a San Diego. It would almost get silly.
Every show, something new gets launched at the booth almost.
We're small enough that it's important that we have a new thing.
Yeah, something feels wrong about selling that exclusive after the show.
Well, it is exclusive until your next show. So for the next couple of weeks, it's exclusive, right?
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I understand what you're saying, and I
That
agree.
feels like flippant.
All right, fine. Flip you.
Where this directly affected a friend of ours is Quirkylicious was
What
not-
happened to Drake now?
He was not far away from me, but he was down like an alley, like right in the middle of the floor, like great location. But the booth at the end of his alley had exclusive pins, and they had an exclusive pin for the morning, one for the afternoon, and one for the evening. And
interesting.
each day was a different exclusive pin. And this was some kind of big company that had like a large following. So every morning, like every day, except for like a couple of hours, Drake would have a solid line in front of his booth that did not move, that wouldn't allow like outside traffic to come to his booth.
Oh, that's awful.
And it just, you could tell it like just gutted him. Like it was too narrow of an aisle for the line to like be moved. On the other side of the his row was another booth with a huge lineup, so they couldn't move it going the other way. So he just had his booth like roped off
By people.
by people, like
By
Wow.
a chain of people who don't want the
that
line
were
cutting
like
vibe.
they were just in line for whatever that pin was.
Oh,
yeah.
that sucks. Sorry to
yeah.
hear that.
Yeah, so poor guy. But
It's too bad that there couldn't be somebody you could call and say, hey, can you do something to rearrange this line, get the con organizers involved?
he
And
did. Like, I think he tried. Like,
Yeah?
he did all the right things. He talked to the line management people. He talked to the booth. He talked to the organizers. He's going to look to move his booth next year, or they're going to move that booth next year just so they can properly manage that line. But
No,
I think,
it's one of those things like you can't always foresee how
No.
popular something will be.
and on like the floor plan, like it's an amazing spot. Like he's
Yeah.
dead center in the hall. It's
Yeah.
a great location.
Yeah. Well, and just at the risk of seeming like I'm throwing shade on Justin, you've created that problem for others at certain shows, and they have also been not pleased about it. But there's no way to predict when a crowd will surge
No.
in your, like, for you, right?
That's true.
Now, differently, you weren't, yours faded and it was fine. It wasn't actually the problem the person thought it was going to be. But what do? It's like another person's success suddenly becomes your problem.
Isn't like, don't we all want lineups in front of our booth? Like,
That's
isn't
right.
that a huge goal? And then if
Yeah.
you got it and somebody,
Yeah, I was so salty about it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a tough position to be in.
yeah.
Yeah, that's emotionally complex.
what else?
So yeah,
What
other
else?
notes.
Oh,
I
moving
had.
along.
Yes, we're moving on. Yes.
So many big companies
assertive today.
give big totes to customers at Comic Con.
oh, yeah.
Like, so these Hulu was doing a
Dan,
huge
totes, not tokes.
Totes.
Dan.
Tote bags.
There you
Huge
go.
I know
tote
what you're
bags.
talking about. Hulu, we don't get that in Canada.
No. But Hulu was Hulu and a couple other big companies give people huge totes, which is great because everybody buys stuff at Comic-Con. What sucked about it for me is I always like seeing what people are buying, and like seeing other artwork and seeing like what's walking by, and you can't get a gauge on any of that because it's all in this huge Family Guy tote or American Dad, and so like. Yeah, that bothered me that I couldn't see when my friends were making sales or like what was kind of like the trend is kind of nice. You know, like I was wondering if Wolverine and Deadpool was going to be all anybody was after kind of thing.
Right.
Like you just kind of wonder about these trends, and that instead was kind of masked off.
And because you're at a show at that magnitude, you're more or less stapled to your booth.
Yeah, you
There's
can't
no
walk
movement.
around too much,
Yeah.
right?
So you don't get to go check it out and see what other people are doing so much. Does that hurt you? Does that bother you? It bothers me sometimes when I'm at a big show like that you don't really get to absorb it.
I feel like I get that in the mornings. Every morning I show up like at least an hour early and like walk the floor. And in San Diego, like it took 4 or 5 days of doing that to really like finally get a sense of it. Once the show starts, like
You can't move physically. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not, you can't do that show in one day. Like you can't see half of it in one day.
Now, this year in particular, I mean, I don't usually pay tons of attention to the news coming out of San Diego, but this year there were some pretty big announcements as far as Marvel stuff is concerned.
I have a different tack about that.
Do you don't think it's big news? I said big announcements. I didn't say it was good.
Not. There's a difference between good and favorite.
Oh, okay.
So I'll, that's fine.
Well, I'm
Whatever
talking about
you're into.
I'm talking about the Robert Downey Jr. coming back.
Yeah,
as Dr.
I
Doom.
felt that every announcement from every major comic company or media company was the safest announcement that they could make. It was like big Marvel movie with your favorite actor from before. Big comic book launch announcement with your favorite writers from before. Big, toy line announcement with your favorite characters from before. Everyone was playing
Nobody's
it
taking
so
any
safe this year. That was
That's
my from afar as the announcements started rolling in. Once I had that lens in my mind, I couldn't see. I mean, yes, I know that's a bias, but I couldn't unsee that as the announcements came out. I'm like, oh, I've heard of all of these people because this is safe.
Is that something that people talk about at the con when it's happening, or do you hear any of that chatter about that stuff?
So here's how that affected me. Last year, there was no announcements happening. There was no Hall H. It was the writers' strike last year.
Right. Okay.
So last year, everybody's main focus was the dealer's room, was like us artists and like
You got to be special.
We were so special. And this year, it was a noticeable downtick in like people walking through, and everybody's sales as a result like took a hit. And so the whole time I was kind of struggling with not being jealous of the ghost of me from last year, who was in that exact same spot, this exact same time of year. He did so much better at the booth than I did this year. And so there was just a lot of like self-doubt in how I set up my booth and my portfolio and what could I have done better to match what I had done last year. But at the end of the day, it's one of these things you can't change, right? Like we can't change that the crowd wasn't as crazy this year. There wasn't as many people. People were going elsewhere instead of like dealers. Like there's nothing. I had to keep like talking myself down from getting like anxious about the busyness at the booth. And so it kind of, and I really didn't want it to affect my mood, because we talked about on like one of the last podcasts about we have the best job in the world.
Yeah.
We get to draw pictures and then go places and have people enjoy those pictures and then keep our lights on by buying those pictures, and like how amazing is that? But all week I was like, if I had just done one more piece, if I had set up my booth differently, I'd be doing better. I'm having a terrible time because, I'm only having a couple hundred great interactions, and I wanted like thousands of great interactions.
Right.
Concentration is vital. You must be one with the rock.
Spot, I appreciate your concern, but if you don't stop distracting me, I'm liable to be one.
Let's talk more about
Woe
the
is
ghost of you, the ghost of past you. Do you end up with a picture in your head of like what you did right then and the feeling you had then, and you're comparing it to the feeling you had now? Is that creating that strain?
whenever I do really well, I kind of take a mental moment to be like, this is great, and it might not always be like this. So like, I really appreciate that it's like this now. You know, like I'd never take it for granted, but it's really hard not to take it to heart because it's the exact same booth setup. It's the exact same like floor plan. It feels like the same people. It's the same time of year. Like it's like going back in a video game to like level, like when you're almost done a video game, you go back to level 1 and you can just trounce everything, right? Like you're just overpowered and everything's easy. And then a couple years later, you go back to play that video game and you can't get past level 1. And it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
So in in entrepreneurial circles, there is a discussion that happens sometimes about the following thing: the myth that efforts always have results leads people to believe. Like, so for example, if you have a business and you start small and then it grows, then you start small and then it grows, and you start small and then it grows, there is a myth that you're telling yourself that my efforts will always have results. And that is a myth, because the way the market responds is not up to you, has never been up to you, will never be up to you. And so sometimes you manage to hit and collect results, and you misassign your efforts as being the only thing that is the reason. So if you are very prepared for the show, as you were, if you plan ahead as you did, if you bring people as you did, and you feel like you're more ready than you were last time, then the ghost of what you thought was going to happen is haunting you, right? It's not really up to you. How could you possibly know that this would be, all the celebrities are back, right? And that
All the familiar faces are back again.
That's true.
Right? And so that is what
I
a huge portion of people would rather spend their money on. That's never up to you.
Well, not that they're spending their money, they're just spending their time. That's what he's saying,
Yeah.
is that they're just over there sitting in line in Hall H waiting to get into those panels instead of
Then
cruising
like
around.
the tangible reason why I'm blaming that for Sunday was what the entire show I thought was going to be. Sunday was amazing.
Sunday,
we
there's
were-
nothing in Hall H?
There's nothing in Hall
Okay.
H. There's nothing else to distract people. People were like, okay, now I'm going to come for the art and whatever. And so Sunday, we had an amazing day. We were slammed the whole time. And like, I was like, this is what I was expecting. This is what we had all 5 days last year. And now we're having it on Sunday. And so, so it's not the work. It's not, it's not the booth setup. Like we still achieved that craziness that I was hoping for the whole weekend. And so maybe it wasn't me. It's, and Greg, you and I were talking about this earlier in the elevator about how it's like when you have a new book and you bring it out and the crowd only wants that book that you did 3 years ago, and they just keep going to that book that you did 3 years ago, and you just want to shake them and go like, I've gotten better.
Yeah, I'm better now. I'm better now.
Stop paying attention
Yeah.
to past me's accomplishments. Present me has done something better.
I don't think it's reasonable for you to expect things to grow every year.
You can't.
Right?
No, absolutely.
I read an article recently about, I guess someone's freaking out about McDonald's and Starbucks had a drop in sales for the first time. Oh my God. And it was like by 0.07% or something ridiculous, some small amount. And their sales are not growing. So therefore it's crisis mode. So, I mean, that's just not sustainable. You can't continue to grow.
No.
And part of the reason for their sales dropping is because people are not spending as much money in general. So that's probably also contributing to people not spending as much. It's probably going to happen in general. And it's completely beyond your control, right? It's nothing you can do about it. So
Cost of labor, cost of materials, cost of
right,
everything.
and the economy in general.
Yeah,
right? It's just
and
things that happen.
So last year there was writer's strike. There was nothing. The year before that was the COVID bubble.
Right,
We
yes.
noticed like everybody coming out of COVID for the first time. Everybody's excited to like spend and be part of it, and so we noticed at a lot of conventions there was a huge surge uptick in sales that first year
Specifically
back.
related to COVID, people had curated their personal spaces, and so they knew that they had room to hang something. And they were looking for something to hang up in the space they had curated that they had spent years now in, right? As a tribe. And then also the habit of reading and consuming non-screen related media had also risen up it had formed a bigger habit. And so we saw this surge of, I want art and I want books, and that's what I'm here for. And of course we make art and books, so it was boom times. And so for it to taper off back to just being how people normally are, it's the same kind of thing, right? there are other things taking their attention away.
Yeah.
Any big surprises in the logistics?
So everything went really smoothly with printing all my prints, shipping everything down there. When we got there, we rented a car this year, so we were able to, instead of Ubering around for all our stops, girlfriend Darcy was able to like drive us everywhere that we needed to go, and then drive our stuff up to the convention floor, like doors, and so that all went super smooth. And then I got home, and my printer reached out to say like, hey, you know how you shipped us a couple boxes from UPS? Well, we got a bill for one of them. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll pay that. Like, you shouldn't, that you guys did me a favor by accepting, like, it was a box of books and a box of my pins and, like, some canvases. Like, they did me a favor by accepting boxes. So, like, absolutely, I will take care of that. You shouldn't have gotten anything like that. And so I open up the bill.
It's a customs bill, is that right?
It's a UPS tariffs customs bill.
Sorry,
Yeah.
right. So, that's a serious thing for a business to receive.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so the printer has like a UPS account, so like
Right.
they just bill it like straight to like the printer, and so I'd sent a box of prints, and it was a big stack of my long prints, and so I said that was worth about $200 worth of paper. Like if I were to have to print that again, that's about right.
Right.
And then I also sent a bunch of pins in like a small box, like the size of like a book, like a textbook.
Right.
Right? Just a bunch of stacked pins in there. And I said, this box is worth about $140. And there's about like 40 something, 50 pins in here. And so UPS, somewhere along the lines, and I've checked my paperwork, I didn't write this in wrong. Somewhere along the line, UPS said, in this paper, in this box of paper, every single one of these pieces of paper is worth $200.
Oh.
So this box is worth $33,000. And then in this box of pins, every single one of these pins is worth $140. So this is a $7,000 box of
Oh
pins.
my God.
And so luckily there are no tariffs on printed materials, printed paper. So zero on that one, but it's 10% for enamel pins. So this is a $700 bill
Tariff, right?
for this like book-sized box of little pins that I sent down. Just more so to like show what I've done than like really sell them. It was just like a presentation board.
examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to go to UPS and explain, like, please help me. Customs is trying to charge my friend a horrendous amount of money for, like, doing me a favor.
And that's somebody along the line just misinterpreted your
Yes.
directions and,
Yes.
and entered the information wrong.
Entered it into the wrong field. I don't know if this is an appropriate time to say, but we often make the joke, known the world over as chasing artwork. Well, when you went to UPS, that known the world over as chasing artwork actually came into
The
play.
first two people who looked at it, like, made me, like, my heart drop. They're like, well, like, it's customs. Like, it's UPS. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, we
They have
can't
their
do
own
anything.
rules,
And I'm
yeah.
like, I didn't put it in wrong. Like, look, this is the paperwork. And I had all my, like, forms and everything. She's like, let me go get the manager. So she goes into the back room, and out comes this woman, and she, like, sees me, and there's, like, a bit of recognition there. And then she lights up. It's like, you do the artwork. And I'm like, yes, this is about the artwork. Somebody's getting screwed over because of my artwork. Please help. And so she immediately starts writing emails and getting information and photocopying everything. And she's already CC'd back me and the printer to say she's taking care of it. And it's not 100% solved yet, but like the wheels are turning and a UPS manager is on the case. So
Now, if there's a lesson to be learned there, it's not like try to be recognizable. It's context really matters. Like, because she understood the nature of your business, it was much easier for her to look at that box and be like, yeah, obviously, this is not $7,000 worth of stuff. I get it, right? So I wonder if this is happening to a person listening to this podcast and like, well, what could I do? It's being able to explain somehow, contextually, what would normally be in the box and to be able to prove what is normally in those boxes and then show that along the way, I think. But you didn't have to explain that to her because she was like, oh, you're you.
But I got this email like as I was flying back to Canada, and so I had this like huge pit in my stomach for a day and a half of like, I don't have to pay, like that's 700 American is
Yeah.
what, like 1,200 Canadian, like this unexpected bill for didn't have to pay it.
Yeah.
Think it's gonna work out.
Yeah. Maybe we should send them a link to this podcast.
Ah,
Send that to the customs agent.
What are you standing around for? Do you not know a jailbreak when you see one?
The only time something like that ever happened to me, although I won't tell a recent story, but I will tell a more like authority-driven story. We may have told on the podcast before. I was in line. I got pulled out of the security line at the airport, and people were going through a bunch of my stuff, and I was like, oh man, there's like a lot of people. And then they called someone over. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just have like art, like it's just my portfolio of artwork in there, and I don't understand what all the fuss is about. And then they finally came back around, and one of the guys was someone who was a regular at the booth and actually had called the other security people to see, like, this is the artist I'm always talking about.
They're flipping through your portfolios.
Yeah, he was a fan, and he was showing the other security agents like the kind of work it was. And like,
meanwhile, you're missing your flight.
I know, my heart is racing. I think like, oh
not
no,
something you want to have that happen
right?
to you.
Is this a strip search time again?
So stressful.
Yeah.
I tell you, one thing that happened to me similar to something that happened to you. I was doing a grocery order, and you know how when you order online these days on Instacart or whatever, you put in how many bananas you want, and in most actually everyone I've used, it's asking for individual bananas. Like it wants to know
total number
how many, like
bundles?
5 bananas. So I put in 5 bananas, and then I had 5 bundles of bananas delivered. And this person, whoever was filling the order, just kind of made that in their head that, oh, that means 5, 1, 2, 3, and grabbed 5 bundles of bananas. So I had a lot of bananas from that
I've
order.
heard that exact same story before.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's happened to more than you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just a scam. They're just trying to overcharge me for
Like
bananas.
just when they're about to turn, now your freezer is filled with darkened bananas, but not their landfill. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
One last thing
stores.
about San Diego that I want to say. My parents came down to help me, and so my mom and dad were there, and I think Dad had a lot of fun. He runs Curry Country Living, this
I saw
little blog.
such a proud photo of your father standing behind the booth. His chest was out, his chin was up. He was
He was
feeling
excited
powerful.
to tell everybody that we were from a little town in Manitoba, Canada, and we were just coming to help out. My son does all the work. I don't know what anything is, so you just point to it on this menu, and I'll try to find it. But
I enjoyed. I follow Curry Country Living on TikTok, and I enjoyed.
They're on TikTok?
Yes, of course he is. He is a good friend on TikTok. Yeah, lots of great photos. It looks like he toured like aircraft carrier or something like that. What was that all about?
Wednesday, while we were finishing setting up, Mom and Dad went and had adventures, and they
That sounds
did
like
some
it
tours.
reminded me of like Star Trek 4 when they go
know.
and like do that
While you
stuff.
were away, I watched Star Trek 4.
looking for the nuclear weapons, right?
Nuclear
Vessels.
Nuclear vessels. Okay, let's just be Star Trek nerds for a second. While you were gone, I visited 6 libraries in 5 days. I did 6 library visits at different libraries. Is that right? No, 4 days. 6 in 4 days. What this meant was I was going to be busy, kind of in my own head, running around doing stuff. So my wife is like, I'm taking the kids. We're going to my dad's place. We're going out to the lake. We're just going to be gone. So what that means is, of course, workaholic Gregory gets to come out like in full force. I'm going to be extrovert in the world. I'm going to do library visits, doing a bunch of making comics workshops, fun, out there. Then come home, and the house is empty and quiet, and I can just put on Star Trek and like draw and work and make stuff. And it was a glorious 4 days. It feels a little bit like a fever dream of library shelves and transporter noises. What I did was I have a DVD set of all the original series movies, and there are some that I watch all the time. I always watch Wrath of Khan, obviously, and I always watch The Undiscovered Country. These are like my 2 favorites, so I've seen those a zillion times. And I realized it had been years since I had watched the motion picture, years since I had deigned to watch Final Frontier, right? There's a few, shall we say, lackluster
Every
installments.
odd number 1 is bad. That's
right.
the general consensus.
That's the
right?
general consensus.
Yeah.
So I decided I would watch only the odd number ones, right? And I would give them their fair due.
Okay.
Yes.
And?
But I can confirm they are. There are moments, though. There are moments in each of those films where I suddenly realized why they endure anyway. Right? There's some really great stuff in all of those films. But then, as a palate cleanser, I put on my favorites to just like really seal the deal. So, yeah. So while you were in like huge crowds, I was in groups of like 15 to 25, either 9 to 12-year-olds, or I think it was 13 to 18-year-olds, working on making comics and story making workshops. And I think this is a funny thing to share, is that of the 6 I did, and in order, the 6 I did, 5 of them, every single person that came there, like his parents bringing them there, its brothers and sisters, cousins, whatever, they were all in. People were so excited to be there and use their imagination in the summer. And these were people who clearly did that already. And it was incredible. The very last one that I did. And Prairie Comics Festival, Samantha Biko, who arranged all of these things, has not heard this story yet. But this is maybe where she will hear it. The very last one, it was also very well attended. And there's a few sort of, I have a patter that I do to warm up the crowd and sort of get people to know that, like, it's going to be 2 hours, but it's going to be fun. It was going crickets, just no engagement whatsoever. And I was like, oh, do I have something on my face? Like, what is,
You did one time, remember that?
Yeah, I did that one time. Yeah, that was funny, but someone just pointed it out as we moved on. And then that part of my teacher brain kicked in. Like, I literally had the mood congruency of being a teacher, and something bad has happened in the building, and it has set a mood to the students. So, like, you try to go on with your regular day, but you are outside of the chain of information, so you don't know that some bad news has hit. That was the vibe I had. So then I immediately stopped, and I said to them this exact thing. Like, I used to be a teacher. I spent 10 years in the classroom. This is the feeling I have right now. Do you all know each other? Like, did something happen? And if something did happen, it's far more important than any nonsense that we have to do here. Like, it's clearly there's a mood. I would like to address that mood, and if I can help, we'll help. And if I can't, maybe we make an adjustment here, like whatever it is. None of the kids knew each other. They weren't all from the same place. And so I went round the room and asked if they'd be willing to share how they heard about the thing and why they were here and what was going on. It turned out, in this room, by chance, all but one student was there as a punishment for being on their phones too much.
What?
Yeah. Their parents had signed them up for a thing that they weren't that interested in and didn't really want to do, but their parents had said, you've spent the entire summer on TikTok or the entire summer playing video games. Like, you won't go touch grass. You won't get out. You're going out for 2 hours to do something with your goddamn mind. And they were furious about it.
You were the punishment.
I was the punishment class for that last group, except for one amazing 14-year-old girl who was the last person to share her story, and she had the complete opposite story. Her story was, well, actually, a few weeks ago, I saw this in the library pamphlet that this was coming. I signed up for it myself. I told my parents I'd signed up for a 2-hour making comics workshop. They told me art was a waste of time.
Is this Matilda?
Yeah, it was that vibe. And you can't go. She says, so the reason I'm in a bad mood is I had a huge fight with my mother before I came here about coming here because all I want to do is draw and make stories. And so it was kind of just by chance. Again, she was the last one to share her story, and she said, I'm shocked that you kids don't realize what a gift this is. And it was like, she felt like the plant. Like, I think all those kids thought that I had put that kid in the room.
That's your kid.
Yeah, right. And it wasn't at all.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
And so rather than go right into the 2 hours of making comics, we first decoded, basically, here was my premise. The insight I had was, if your parent or guardian self-selected you to be here, it's not as a punishment. It's because they think you have imagination, that you have inquiry, that you could tell stories, or that you have told stories in the past, and they would love to see you do more of that. Let's accept that this isn't your punishment. This is your parents' vote for a part of you that they wish they saw more. And that kind of got them into like, okay, I don't absolutely hate my dad for taking my phone away and putting me in this room. Maybe there is something going on here. And the way the library does these events, at least the Manitoba Public Library System, is that when they bring in speakers, so that they don't have to go through laborious vetting process of like child abuse registries and all of this kind of stuff. They just assign a library personnel to be in the room at all times.
Oh, okay.
So that at no time is your son or daughter alone with a stranger, right? A library personnel is there, and if they have to go on a break, they bring another library personnel. Like that, they have a great system in place for that. It makes it really easier for the speakers because then there's no extra paperwork. You can just come in, do your thing. They kind of have a handler for you, and they manage all the stuff you need. But for the first 5 of the workshops, each one of those handlers just joined in right away and just became a participant, and we did story breaking, and we wrote this stuff, and we made all these comics, and it was so great. And the look of pure terror in the first 15 minutes of this other one of like, what are we going to do? Like, no one wants to be here, and we're supposed to be, and their parents all left. Like, it's clear that we
got
can't,
2 hours, yeah.
we can't call them to come get it because like there's a burden of responsibility here. And instead, we did the workshop, but I said, let's imagine it from the point of view of what is it you think your parent thinks you're capable of that put you here? And once they started sharing that, oh, well, I used to draw a lot. I used to doodle. I used to get kicked out of math because I would tell I would make jokes. I used to take art classes and be upset when the art class was over, but I haven't had a good art teacher in a long time, so I don't draw anymore. Like, they all had all the essential skills. And I was like, okay, so let's, and I just pretended, and this is, I guess, me telling the truth now, if you were in that workshop. I pretended that I would change it completely for your benefit.
But you did exactly what you had planned.
Yeah, I just did what I had planned after. I said, let's imagine that we're going to start from scratch, which is what the workshop is. We start from scratch, right? But usually people want to be there, so starting from scratch is like the first quick part, where you just quickly establish that people like to draw, they like to lay out stuff, they have essential skills. There's no need to belabor these points because you already have them, but I like to get them in the front of the participant's mind, like, I am good at this. I want that to be the vibe they're in for the last part of the thing. So instead, we just changed it to, I am good at this, as the essential premise of that 2-hour workshop. And by the end, the last half hour, we actually ran overtime because the students were so interested in sharing their work with each other. One of the other things I did, if you're in a real cold room, dear listeners, look up the premise of mirror neurons. It goes very simply like this. I have a big C set up, and I'm sort of at the center of that horseshoe shape, usually. And the kids, because they hated everything about life in that moment, they separated themselves so there was gaps between all of them at all times. I formed them into a wedge in one side of that letter shape so that it was, and I said to them, the reason I'm doing this is so it's you against me. You're all the same. You don't want to be here, and I'm here for you. Now it's you versus me, and that'll be good.
It's like that drill sergeant mentality.
Right. But what it does is actually good behavior and bad behavior spreads more quickly the closer you are in proximity to another human being. So I just wedged them all together, and the person who was really there, who was really interested, they all adopted that child's body language, right? The interested body language of what to do and how to participate. And each time one of them shared, the other one understood what it was that they were supposed to be doing. And when they were nervous or whatever, they were sitting beside someone, like literally right beside someone who had just shared. So it wasn't like they were being singled out. And it started to pick up to the point where it was out of my control. We ran overtime because they were all sharing their stories.
Awesome.
And the library had, I'm being purposely vague about which library it was, just so that no parent feels like I'm casting shade on their choices. But
well, I imagine the parents were happy to have the kids come out engaged like that. The kids would have been yapping about it, and
yeah, well, awesome. One hopes. But this is not a pat on the back for me. This is in a way I get a fair amount of good feedback when I'm doing teaching workshops. Here's my secret, dear listeners. I ask the participants for their ideas, and I assert that their ideas are more important than mine. So of course you're going to have a good workshop if you're not speaking down at everybody in the room and you're collecting upwards into the room. And so that's all I did. And I couldn't help but feel like that's the secret curriculum there is those students, all they really wanted was anyone to listen to them ever.
Just to be heard.
Just to be heard.
Yeah.
Just to be heard. They liked telling stories and no one would ever listen to them. And wherever their home life is, I got to put a little bit of blame in there, right? And whatever their distraction is, whatever that, the parent is saying, oh, your social media is the problem. I mean, partially because it's addictive and designed to be addictive, but they feel more heard there and more seen there. And so that's where they go to, right? So in that attention warfare space that you were talking about at San Diego, I felt that attention warfare come very specifically into this moment of like, oh.
Close quarters attention warfare.
Yeah, it was really interesting. The librarian really was like, I've never seen a group turn so quickly. And I said, well, if you're ever in that situation, just ask them for their ideas. All I did was I literally started, dear listener, with a big sheet of paper. And I said, okay, since no one wants to be here, let's start with the list of where you'd rather be. And so I wrote, like we just did like a word web of all the things that are better than here.
Yeah.
Right? And then all the kids realized, oh, we all have all these things in common. Oh, I like doing that stuff too. Oh, I like, you collect the group. And then, oh, well, since these are all things you like to do, why don't we make these what our stories are about? And we moved on from there.
It's funny how if you give them too vague of a prompt.
You can do anything.
Right, that doesn't work. You can't do that. But then as soon as you're like, okay, we're in a forest. What kind of animal is in this forest? And suddenly, like I'm thinking back to when I did a story break with little kids, right? Yeah. And the first couple of things I gave them were just like nobody knows what to go off of. But then you narrow things down a little bit. Yeah, animal in the forest. What's his job?
Which way to the turbo shed?
Head down that tunnel to the hydro vent and turn right. Then left at the blow screen. You can't miss it, Mr. Scott. You're amazing.
There's nothing amazing about it. I know this ship like the back of my hand.
This comes back around to the San Diego discussion in that specific idea of what are the limitations and what do I have to do within these limitations, right? Doesn't matter if you're talking about setting up for a show, doesn't matter if you're talking about setting up for a workshop or your own story limitations. Without limitations, you can do anything. Well, that means you could do everything.
Yeah.
And you can't do everything, so you freeze, right? But as you were saying, what are the things that I could have done? Could I have set up my booth differently? Could I have done a new piece? Could I have paid more attention to what people, quote unquote, really wanted, right? All of these things. These are afterthoughts. It's too late at that point.
Right.
Right? Where would I rather be? What could I rather be doing? It's too late. You're in the room with me, kid.
You're the boxer right? In the ring.
Yeah.
Your training is done, right?
Right.
You've practiced all you can practice.
Which beautifully comes back around to our Star Trek. Because one of my favorite moments in Undiscovered Country is when Spock is talking to his protege, right? And he says to her, what you want is irrelevant. What you've chosen is at hand. This I think about all the time. Like I was in that room thinking like, oh wow, these kids hate me right now. And I actually had the thought, because I had watched that movie the night before. What I want is irrelevant. What I've chosen is at hand. I've chosen to be here in this room with these kids. And my job in this room with these kids is to engage them in some way. Any way that'll work, right? You're at the show, you've chosen to be there, you have to engage with the crowd in some way. You know, what you want is irrelevant. I wish it was a bigger show. I wish there wasn't a line in front of me. I wish, UPS wasn't secretly trying to overcharge me. What you've chosen is at hand, right? And you just have to kind of deal with the thing you've dealt. And it helps, frankly, to talk about it after.
Sure.
It does, yeah. As soon as, going back to, all the internalizing, doubts and all that, those not so fuzzy feelings, as soon as I started commiserating with a couple of friends who were going through the same thing, right? Okay, you're down in sales as well. Have we just sold to everybody already? Did we get all our customers last year and this year they don't want our new stuff? Is it the crowd is down? Is it this? Is it everybody, every artist had the exact same self-doubt that I had. People that I thought were killing it were coming back and no, we're down as well. And we always wondering what we're doing wrong and what we could do better. So it's good to kind of voice it out there. Or even I sent Greg a long text about all this, and that came from I just opened up a note and I just had to write it out what I was going through. Also in part because I know this doesn't happen all the time, and when I'm having a great show, I can look back at all those self-doubts and know that no, that's That's not like the real thing that's going on. Like, the work is still good. I'm still okay. I'm doing fine.
But marking it down in the way that you did, and I talked to Justin about this a couple of times, Dan, about how I felt very seen, even though it wasn't to me. He wasn't sending a text about me. He was sending a text about like all these doubts that circle through your setup, and he said, "I'm going to text this here so that we have it and we can talk about it on the show, or I can just think about it, but it needs to be somewhere where I can find it easily later." And then as I'm reading it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I felt that. Oh, I feel that. Oh, I've done that." It just felt so universal, but unexpressed. So we spend so little time expressing the times when you're sure, oh, it's all over now. The good times ended.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it must be over now. And they aren't, right? What you've chosen is at hand, but tomorrow, right? That Genesis planet is still going to be there, right?
You're mixing up your Star Trek movies now. I don't know which one.
They're all the same movie. That's the thing.
Well, there's a trilogy. There's a trilogy within that, like the second, third,
2,
and
3,
fourth,
4, yeah.
right? And then 5. I mean, I follow somebody on TikTok who just does this great job. He basically is just him on screen telling himself the plot to all of these movies, and he's done all of the series and everything. He's working his way through everything. So he's had people like Harv Bennett follow him, people who are involved in the making of these movies and stuff like that. And yeah, those 3 are really good. I actually really like The Search for Spock. I think it's a
so
good movie. Christopher Lloyd is the Klingon in it. He's excellent, and there's a lot of good moments. It's a weird story, and it's kind of hard to follow, and it's a bit like, how did he come back to life again? Like that kind of part is
a little bit. There's a lot. There's a lot too much paper mache world. In it, but
and
overall.
then that the Voyage Home was always my favorite Star Trek movie when I was a kid.
So good.
Because it brought Star Trek here to the real world, and I always loved that. When I was a kid and I saw a movie and they brought like the characters I loved into the real world, I thought that was cool. I didn't realize it was a measure to cut the budget.
Yeah, it was
to save money to film in a regular already existing area rather than having to construct the sets and everything.
Yeah.
So, and then like movies like Masters of the Universe, I love that movie because it was here in the real world. Meanwhile, it was supposed to have taken place on another planet, but
right.
the
Didn't
budget
have
was
the
cut.
budget for that.
Yeah.
Well, and if we're going to be Star Trek nerds for a minute, that Star Trek 3, Voyage Home, when they the Paramount and the group is planning, they're like, okay, well, we have enough money to do either the cheapest starship sets and the worst like Enterprise, or we can use this set that we hadn't dismantled. This is the thing that I had read about. We hadn't dismantled yet the set.
The Klingon ship?
The Klingon ship.
Yeah,
That's
there you
awesome.
go.
So what, like when they list, it's like that scene in Princess Bride where it's like, you know, where'd we put the wheelbarrow the albino had, right? Why didn't you list that among our assets in the first place? That in a production meeting they said, well, we still have most of the Klingon set built, so that's free.
Yeah.
What can we build around that, right? And then the whole thing sort of scaled from that moment of like, this is the cheapest but best story. And the key feature here, best story we can tell in the available resources.
I think it was a great story for that
Same
time.
thing happened with Tammy and the T-Rex. The film production company had access to an animatronic T-Rex for like 3 days before it was getting shipped back to
Some other thing.
California or whatever. So they made Tammy and the T-Rex.
Oh, interesting.
Because it was free for those couple of days.
Because what you want is irrelevant. What you've got left over from the last project is at hand.
Is it mechanical T-Rex?
Oh my goodness. Okay, this has been Super Pulp Science, where we have talked about how genre gets made and living with your own decisions. I would encourage you to join the fight and make comics.